Those two buildings have concaved into one another. The archway is gone. Our floor is 50 feet underground.
When you think of sinkholes, sudden sinkholes, you might think of China because there's reports about roads collapsing, swallowing cars and people. You might think of Iceland recently, the little fishing town of Grindavik, where after a volcanic earthquake swarm with a magma intrusion underneath the town, all of a sudden sinkholes and cracks have opened. But would you think that there is a Sinkhole Alley in the United States, and that there is a Sinkhole Alley in one of the most popular states in the US, very famous tourist attraction? In Florida, guys, there is a Sinkhole Alley, and we're not talking about a little tiny area with little tiny sinkholes. We're talking about sudden sinkholes that swallow up people, cars, homes, businesses, large areas. And the scary thing is, if you look at that area from an aerial view and you see all these nice round ponds and lakes in the area, how do you think they were formed, guys? Sinkholes. And this is not something to scare you guys, but it's something I haven't known before. And it's kind of scary because it can happen at any time, anywhere in this area. And you're sitting in your office, in your home, or on your couch watching TV, and then your house or parts of your house gets swallowed up. And it seems they have no way to really predict this or to build a grid to know where it is or where it's forming. So let's have a closer look into this, where this area is, what happened, who's affected, and how this looks, guys. It blows my mind, I have to say, and I hope you're staying with me through this video, and maybe you can give this video an early like so that it's pushed out by the algorithm, because I kind of have a feeling, guys, that only the volcano videos are being pushed out by the volcano algorithm, by the algorithm, because only you guys, you keep only watching my volcano videos. So do me a favor, give this video a kick. It's a very interesting but also frightening, I have to say, topic, because it's happening in an area of Florida that I always had in the back of my mind maybe to move there, because it's also close to equestrian farms, equestrian areas, and you know, would I want have my horses on the pasture and then they get swallowed by a sinkhole? I always thought the alligators would be the problem. So let's start, guys, right now. So the alligators probably later on like the sinkholes once they fill with water. But, you know, we will hear from a UCF engineering professor that will go into details how these sinkholes are happening. And, you know, maybe if you live in Florida, let me know in the comments, or if you live in this area that we will talk about, you maybe have heard of sinkholes. I hope you have, so that you're aware of this. So these sinkholes is basically the ground caves in and it brings down everything on top of it, whether it's a road, businesses, homes, every structure, everything that's there has been impacted. And there is a professor that works for the University of Central Florida, and he has researched the sinkholes and the erosions there. And now it comes. He says much of Central Florida is part of the so-called Sinkhole Alley. So we know about tornado alleys, but Sinkhole Alley. And he says it goes all the way, if you look at the map here, from Hillsborough County, too close to Tempe as well, all the way up to Daytona. And then it goes through areas of Maitland and Winterpark. Sinkhole Alley. And then in this area, there's a lake. Maybe you know it, Lake Ocala. And that's actually, that lake started as a sinkhole. Did you know that? I didn't. So the professor says that part of the lake has collapsed through the aquifer and then has filled with water. And he said much of the lake is shallow, but the part that has collapsed is very deep. Then there's another lake you might know. Lake Rose in Winterpark has also started as a sinkhole. It caused a car dealership to collapse, and some of the cars were never recovered from that sinkhole.
A lot of natural gems as well.
Yeah, here's one example. Take a look. Lake Rose is near the intersection of Fairbanks Avenue and Denning Drive, which is a few blocks west of Park Avenue.
41 years ago, this lake was a massive sinkhole right in the middle of Winterpark.
Breaking news back in May of 1981. On the front page of the then Sentinel Star, a massive sinkhole in Winterpark.
We're standing right here.
Layla Jamal showed me what the Winterpark sinkhole looked like when it gobbled up part of an Olympic-sized swimming pool, part of a luxury car dealership, and May Rose Williams' 3-bedroom home. That's why it's now called Lake Rose.
She heard a big swoosh late Friday night, early into the morning, and went out of her home to see what it was, saw her home settling in, and then that's when everything kind of, over like a 48-hour period, when everything collapsed into the sinkhole.
Layla and her family were at Mother's Day brunch downtown when it happened 40 years ago.
So, you know, yeah, I've seen it in the news. Oh, there's a sinkhole, right? You think, yeah, maybe they haven't done construction very well or something else. Maybe there was pipes underneath, or rain washed it out, or whatever. You always think this is an isolated incident, but that there's a sinkhole alley at that massive scale. And now if you combine all the incidents that have happened there, that I will show you and talk about this in this video, I'll show you what else has happened. It's kind of scary. And the professor also says if you fly over Central Florida, if you see those really round lakes, that's what you have to look for. They're probably sinkholes, because sinkhole is typically a funnel that fails the surface and then falls in. So if you're thinking about buying property and you have a nice pond in your garden, or if you're thinking about buying an equestrian property and you have these nice little round ponds, you should better be thinking twice, because where's one sinkhole, there might be another one. And that's what the professor is saying. They look very pretty from the sky, but they can be concerning and very dangerous in residential areas. So the advice is, if you have a home in the Sinkhole Alley or in an impacted area, you better check out, there's a survey map, the Florida Geological Survey map of sinkholes. I'll put the link in the description. Check out the map and learn about the history of this area. So check it out here. So while the map was loading and then all of a sudden it was showing the map, I was going like, woo! I mean, it is Central Florida, but it's basically all over Florida if you look at the map here. I mean, all the yellow rings, what the map says, it's Florida Subsidence Incident Reports. So these already exist. And then there's some red rings. It says Florida Geologic Survey Swallets, FGS Swallets. So those are also there. And then I'll scroll a little bit. If you go down to Miami, there's less. So the tip of the tongue of Florida seems to be okay. And of course, if you look at Central Florida, basically between Gainesville and Sarasota, there's really a lot. And it's kind of like scary how many there are, because, you know, around Ocala, Marion County, and all these areas, this is equestrian country, and this hits close to home, because see how it's clustered there, because there's pastures, there's horses on the pastures, and I would worry so much, you know, that they are being swallowed up. If you see my horses, how they're grazing on the pastures, and they're standing there one moment, and the other moment it goes and then they're gone. Sorry, I'm laughing. I mean, this is really serious, and I was not aware of this. And it's actually scary that there is a cluster of sinkholes basically right at Ocala. And also the red rings, you see them there. I didn't know that. And then if you move further west, there's Dunelon, and then you go along the coast, there's also quite a cluster. And yeah, you can basically see it looks like, if you zoom in, sometimes it looks like they go along a certain line, but especially here like on the coast. But if I go back to Ocala, it's basically a round cluster around Ocala and then goes out. And it goes out, is it just me or does it go along the roads? But okay, that doesn't mean that the roads are the cause, because you have to consider, it says the reported incidents. If it's in some swampy area or in some forest or national park, or just maybe even farmland, maybe it's not reported or they don't know that it's there. If it's on a highway or in a subdivision, of course, it's very, very obvious because it has a huge impact. And of course, it gets reported. But even if you go further up, Gainesville, and even into the Live Oak, into the Panhandle, it's basically everywhere. Tallahassee, but you know, again, probably there's more clusters around the more populated areas because people are reporting them and they have a bigger impact. If your outdoor pool or your living room gets swallowed by this, then in the less dense area, for example, here, the Ocala National Forest and stuff like this. But it seems the eastern area, like Jacksonville, Palm Coast, it's not that heavily affected unless you go further down to Daytona. There, Orlando, there is a lot of sinkholes again, but also you see there are already a lot of lakes there around the Ocala National Forest, and I'm absolutely stunned. So let's talk about more what is happening when a sinkhole forms, about reports about this, because that kind of blew my mind. You know, there's a lot of press reports and articles out there. I was just not aware. You know, one headline, America's Sinkhole Alley, where roads cave in, homes are swallowed whole, a whole home, and people vanish into the void beneath. The Sinkhole Alley, they call it Central Florida, but as we just seen, it's basically all of Florida, and the grounds in these sinkholes, and that makes it so dangerous. They come without a warning. They're suddenly collapsing. So what we've seen on the map, these yellow rings, guess how many sinkholes are there in Florida that are reported? There's many more that probably haven't been reported yet. 27,000 sinkholes reported in Florida, and 20,145 of these sinkholes are dangerous voids that are located in the Sinkhole Alley. That's basically 3 counties, Pasco, Hernando, and Hillsborough. But you know, if you look at the map, I think it's everywhere. And there are some photos and some aerial picture of that sinkhole that happened in Winterpark in Florida in 1981, and it really looks like an asteroid or a bomb hit that crater. So we're not talking about a 1 or 3 feet sinkhole or something. The diameter is like 100 feet, no, even more, 200 feet, something like that. I don't know, but it's definitely huge if you look at this. That sinkhole that you see here had a diameter of 400 feet. So over 120 meters in diameter. It did swallow 5 cars, 2 businesses, a 3-bedroom house, nearby streets, and the deep end of an Olympic-sized swimming pool. And that's why the professor says the lakes you see on the aerial pictures, not little tiny ponds. That's a lake, 400 feet diameter. The easiest way to find a sinkhole is, of course, if you fly over it or if you have like a satellite picture. Most of these sinkholes did become beautiful lakes, but you know, many people just don't know about this. These sinkholes pose a significant threat to the safety of locals that live in this area. And the most worrying fact is that they seemingly happen at random. It can happen anywhere. So there's different kind of sinkholes. If you have very sandy soil, for example, which you do have in many parts of Florida, there are some warning signs when sinkholes develop underneath sandy soil. They typically show some signs that imminent danger is coming in their surface depressions before they're collapsing. So you see that something is subsiding. But those that are starting to crumble under layers of clay, for example, you don't see it because the clay hides it for a while. It doesn't give way while it's already maybe hollow underneath. And that's what's then collapsing all over a sudden and without warning, and led to one fatal incident in Sefna, for example. That was in 2013. There was a resident in Sefna. His name was Jeff Bush. He was 37 years old, and he was in his bed sleeping when a sinkhole unexpectedly opened up underneath his bedroom and swallowed him up. It sounds like out of a bad sci-fi movie, but this is what happened.
Our Ashley Glass spoke with Jeff Bush's family about exactly what it shows.
We heard Jeff scream.
The sounds and terror of that night.
We opened up the door, and all we seen was a big old hole, and Jeff was gone.
Sucked into this sinkhole 60 feet deep, Rachel, struck by the depth.
Yeah, that looks totally different than when we seen it.
Which was immediately after it happened in the middle of the night. This video shot in the morning hours after with a tiny camera attached to a pole and slipped through Jeff's bedroom window. Engineers who worked on this sinkhole telling us by phone by this point, the sides of the sinkhole had become fiercely steep, initially more tiered, but incredibly unstable and risky for anyone to jump in and try and save Jeff.
So the first responders were unable to recover his body after it plunged into the void beneath. So again, these sinkholes are getting deep. We're not talking about like a 10 feet to the 3 meter deep sinkhole. It really goes down deep, and you vanish, and that's really scary, underneath your house while you're sleeping. What seems to have happened there is also there was a clay area, and it did conceal the erosion that was eating away below the clay surface. And then all of a sudden it did implode, it did collapse, and it took everything above it down with it. And if you're watching my videos about the town of Grindavik, they have invented their own hazard level for that. Crack collapse, sudden sinkholes. It might look fine, especially if you have paved roads with asphalt. They stay level for a while, although it's eroded underneath, and then all of a sudden they open. And that's why this little town is probably unsafe for a very, very long time. And same thing here in Florida. I didn't know that it's that dangerous. A really serious of sinkholes happened in 2018 when there were a dozen sinkholes that all of a sudden opened up in Florida City, forcing 8 homes to be evacuated. And of course, the other residents were also super scared, thinking, well, will we have to leave our homes as well? And in 2018, these holes started to show up or pop up around a retention pond in the, I don't know how to pronounce this, Windchase neighborhood of Ocala. And that scares me because it's such a beautiful equestrian community. And then they continued to pop up over a time frame of 2 weeks. And locals were absolutely terrified, frightened by this event that was happening, because if it's so random, you don't know. It's not that someone has been digging an underground subway tunnel that you could see, oh, they were digging for pipeline. No, completely random. They don't know why. And I also want to show you, there's a picture in an article that I found at the Daily Mail, there is a photo of that sinkhole that swallowed the sleeping man there. But you have to imagine, you know, there was the house on top of it. So unlucky as he was, it opened right underneath his bed, but could have happened while he was sitting on a sofa as well. But this sinkhole kept opening for like many times. So it has already opened a third time, but the good thing is they have fenced this area off, so they haven't built anything again, so nothing happened when it was opening up again. But you know, they are showing another picture here when a home was destroyed after the backyard behind the home has collapsed into a sinkhole, and everything was sinking down there, the patio and a boat. That was November 2013 in Dunedin, Florida. So look, this is serious, guys. And then there's more pictures, dozen sinkholes. This is when 8 homes had to be evacuated. It is close to another pond, so never build too close to a pond. I always thought because of the alligators. So it could be that this is related, that it's washed out. There's more pictures from this destroyed home. I mean, it's totally destroyed. And then there's headline like huge sinkhole opens up in Florida, swallows the homes, and then it keeps growing after it already had swallowed the homes. There's a quote from one resident that said, "They just keep coming. Are we safe? We don't know. It's really scary. We just have a bed ready in case we're told to evacuate." But here comes the problem. If this is a series of sinkholes, you could endanger yourself by trying to get out, because if you walk over the road and then you get swallowed up by your car, it's really like random. Where you step could be a good step or a wrong step. It's like underground mines, basically. No, it's not called mines, like explosive. You know what I mean. In Germany, we say Minen, and mines like explosive stuff. The problem is also some sinkholes can be dormant for decades until they then all of a sudden subside and swallow up infrastructure. There's another sinkhole that just recently happened in 2023. So that hole that has swallowed up the home and the sleeping man is called the Sefner sinkhole. And this has opened up for a third time, so that's why it looks tiny in that picture, but it must have been way bigger at that time because it swallowed the home and the man.
Keely, so far people living near the sinkhole have not had to evacuate, but this has got to be unsettling for them.
Please tell me neighbors have been notified, but right now they are safe to stay in their homes. The sinkhole right now is blocked off by these 2 fences here, and there is 1 deputy on scene monitoring the size. He did tell me it keeps getting bigger, so this is the 3rd time that this sinkhole has opened. Back in 2013, it opened directly underneath the bedroom where Jeffrey Bush was sleeping. His body was never recovered. Shortly after, Bush's home and the homes on both sides of it were demolished. In 2015, it opened again, but since then there's been no activity until now. The closest home is across the street, and it's blocked off with 2 fences again right now, and the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office is on scene monitoring the size and making sure people stay back.
So that was in a Tampa suburb. Do you know, they really tried to fight that sinkhole, and that's what makes it really, really scary. And that, if you're watching my channel, that's what they're trying in Iceland, filling up these sinkholes. But one worker died when he was trying to compact the material, and then all of a sudden the sinkhole opened up again and widened and deeper. He was completely swallowed by it. They were like for 2 days sending down drones, people, workers trying to find him, but it seems there was an underground tunnel system of rivers or whatever. He vanished. They never found him, and it seems we're dealing with something like this here in Florida as well. So what they did after the fatal incident in 2015, they filled that hole with a mixture of gravel and water after it had opened for a second time, but that didn't help. Opened for a third time. And at that time, it grew to 19 feet wide. And state records show that the Florida sinkholes, the one with the car dealership, they can grow as wide as 400 feet. Like I said, 121 meters. There's another sinkhole in Emerald Springs. It's called Mystery Sink. It has cost 2 people their lives. This area then was permanently closed to the public with a large barbed wire fence that is surrounding the area. And you see an aerial picture and a picture here. Yeah, it looks like a nice little lake, but you can see there's some ravines going down, and then the lake is down there. There you can see how deep this did sink. So what happened in the Mystery Sink? That we have to go back to 1970. There was a 16-year-old boy. His name was Fred Schmidt, and he was from Orlando. And he went scuba diving with a local scuba diving instructor, Hal Watts, in the lake, in that little lake there. And that was known for its deep water diving lessons because it was obviously deep. So they went into that mystery sink when they lost a safety vest. They were searching for it, but while they were doing this, the diving instructor realized that the 16-year-old boy had vanished. He wasn't there anymore. He started looking for him, and he started to panic, and he was able to spot him again. For a quick second, he saw the boy below him in that mystery sink, but then he was unable to locate the boy, and the diving instructor then also passed out. So they started a search and rescue operation, and other divers went down there in the mystery sink, and they were searching for the boy's body, obviously, for 3 days, when the mystery sink claimed another life. There was another diver, his name was Bud Sims, and he was a rescue diver there. And he became entangled in some of the search lines and was then panicking and then losing his diving piece, his oxygen mouthpiece, when he tried to surface. And then he collided. I mean, it was really, really bad luck. You can't blame this on the sinkhole. He then collided with one of the boats, with the hull of the boat, and he died before he was able to be rescued. So this is a little bit of a mystery story, you know, but both bodies were never recovered. They just vanished. That is strange. So there must be something at the bottom, or is there a bottom of this mystery sink, some current that also is washing these bodies away? So authorities are saying prevention, yeah, not so easy. So homeowners should understand the geological history of their neighborhood when they buy a home. So yeah, what can you do? Look at the aerial pictures. If there is a lot of ponds, don't buy there. But then basically you can't buy anywhere in Florida. And if you look at that map with all the yellow circles, I mean, there's so many sinkholes. Where would you go? I mean, basically it seems the area around Miami is safe from that. Scientists are saying, yeah, consult with the Florida Geological Survey and look at the sinkhole map, assess the risk level of a particular location. But they're, like I said, they're all over the place. And that's what the scientists are saying. And that's what's really concerning is, listen to this. At a certain point, avoiding the nearly 30,000 sinkholes in Florida may come down to a matter of luck. So, I don't know if I want to go to Florida anytime in the near future, guys. Let me know what you're thinking, especially if you live in Florida. Let me know. Did you know about this? Are you concerned about this? Do you live in one of these clusters areas that is basically almost all over Florida? I would like to hear from you. I find this concerning. Plus, Florida has the hurricanes, the tornadoes, the gators. I mean, the gators are probably not a problem. It's just the cockroaches and the mosquitoes are as big as your hand. Yeah, I'm not into bugs. I just have to say that, guys. So yeah, Florida is beautiful, don't get me wrong, but I just thought that this is an interesting topic that you should be aware if you want to live there, if you want to buy a home there or whatever, guys. I hope you like this video. As I said, give it a like, kick it out in the world. Subscribe if you're new here, and check out my videos in the end screen. If you're interested in sinkholes, check out the story of Iceland, what happened to the town of Grindavik. I have a whole playlist about that, tons of videos, I think more than 100. And if you're interested in volcanoes and stuff like this, check out what's going on in Italy. Basically, many volcanoes in Italy are acting up, and it's kind of scary. So thanks for watching, guys. Stay safe, be aware, be prepared as much as you can, but then still, it can strike you at random. We're never safe. I guess that's the takeaway from this report coming out of Florida. Thank you, guys. If you want to support my channel, check out the link in the description. Go to my buymeacoffee.com website. It's totally for free. Sign up there. There's I've just opened up a new gallery for subscribers. It's free if you subscribe there. A gallery where I will add more pictures of Rudy and the gang, and if I'll notify my subscribers with an email if there's a new interesting event going on. So being a follower there is totally for free. It's only a site, so if you want to support the channel, you can do this by buying a coffee, but to look at everything that I post there, it's totally for free. And of course, if you want to support the channel on YouTube, just click the heart with the thanks. Let's call it supers. Thanks so much for that, guys. I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you very, very soon, guys. I have to walk the doggies and feed the horses. I see you soon. Bye-bye.